The Kraxan Imperial Survey vessel Eternal Grace emerged from quantum space above Earth's orbit, its crystalline sensor arrays capturing every detail of the blue planet below. High Commander Vextal stood at the bridge's observation dome, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft purple glow of the ship's ambient lighting. Her secondary eyes tracked multiple data streams while her primary set remained fixed on the planet that would become the Empire's newest protectorate. Fascinating, she muttered, mandibles clicking softly. They still use radio waves for primary communication. And look at those satellites. Mechanical propulsion systems, physical solar panels. How charmingly antiquated. Her executive officer, Kesri, brought up a holographic display of Earth's orbital infrastructure. They've barely established a lunar base, High Commander. Their Mars colonies are still in early development. According to our metrics, they're at least 3 centuries behind minimum Imperial standards. Vextal's scales rippled with amusement. And yet the Oversight Council insists we establish diplomatic relations, something about their unique developmental path. She gestured dismissively with one of her secondary arms. Prepare the first contact protocols. Let's get this over with. But deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only as Deep Harbor, Dr. Sarah Chen was seeing something very different in the alien vessel's emissions. Her augmented reality display highlighted patterns in the quantum wake that the aliens thought were undetectable. Director Hayes, she called out, her fingers dancing across haptic controls. Their quantum drive is leaving traces we can actually track. They're using a form of quantum tunneling that's incredibly elegant, but, she smiled, they never considered someone might be watching the space between spaces. Director Marcus Hayes, a former Navy SEAL turned quantum physicist, leaned over her station. His dark eyes narrowed as he studied the data. They think they're invisible because no one should be able to detect quantum signatures without quantum tech. But our primitive mechanical sensors are picking up the ripple effects in normal spacetime. Sarah finished. We can track their movements, maybe even predict their emergence points. Hayes straightened, his expression grim. How long have they been watching us? Based on these patterns, at least 6 months. They're building up to something big. And they have no idea we can see them. Hayes pulled up a secure comm link to the United Earth Defense Council. This is exactly what we've been preparing for. Alert all deep space monitoring stations. Initiate protocol silent watch. In high orbit, Vextal was reviewing Earth's public data networks, her neural interface sifting through centuries of human history. Their military technology is particularly primitive, she noted. Ballistic weapons, combustion engines, armor made of metallic alloys. They still rely on human pilots for most vehicles. Kesri's scales shifted to a concerned yellow. But High Commander, their combat simulations are extensive. They spend an unusual amount of time studying warfare. Historical curiosity, nothing more. A species that hasn't even mastered gravity manipulation can hardly pose a threat to Imperial forces. Vextal's scales settled into a confident blue. Begin the standard subjugation protocol. They'll be grateful for our guidance once they understand their place. At Deep Harbor, Sarah was making another discovery. Director, look at their power signatures. Their quantum drive isn't just for propulsion. It's integrated into every system. Weapons, shields, life support. They've put all their eggs in one basket, Hayes mused. Quantum tech is their foundation for everything. They probably think that makes them invulnerable. But it also makes them predictable, Sarah said, her fingers flying over her console. Their systems all operate on the same quantum principles. If we can disrupt one, we can disrupt them all. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. Keep monitoring. Let them think their technology makes them invisible. Sometimes the best advantage is letting your enemy underestimate you. As the Eternal Grace prepared its first contact protocols, neither side fully understood how their assumptions about the other would shape the coming conflict. The Kraxan, with their quantum technology and biological interfaces, saw only primitive humans playing with simple machines. They never considered that those simple machines might see things their advanced sensors missed, or that mechanical thinking might find solutions their quantum computers never imagined. And as humanity quietly watched and waited, they prepared defenses the Kraxen would never expect. Because sometimes the most effective weapon is the one your enemy thinks is too primitive to be a threat. The stage was set for a clash, not just of technologies, but of perspectives. The Kraxen would soon learn that progress doesn't always follow a single path, and that what looks primitive through one lens might be revolutionary through another. The Eternal Grace began its descent into lower orbit, its crew confident in their superiority, never noticing the subtle distortions their quantum wake left in normal space-time. Distortions that hundreds of primitive human sensors were tracking with perfect precision. The first move in this cosmic chess game had been made, but only one side knew they were actually playing. The quantum wake scanner in Dr. Sarah Chen's lab wasn't supposed to exist. According to every advanced civilization's understanding of physics, you couldn't detect quantum signatures with ordinary matter-based sensors. You needed quantum tech to see quantum effects. But Sarah had never been good at accepting impossibilities. It's like watching ripples in a pond, she explained to the assembled Joint Chiefs, pointing to the holographic display showing the Kraxen fleet's movements. Their ships don't disturb normal space directly, but the quantum tunneling creates microscopic distortions in the fabric of space-time. Distortions our primitive mechanical sensors can detect. Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the hologram's blue glow. And they have no idea we can track them. They don't even consider it possible. Director Hayes answered. Their entire civilization is built on quantum technology. The idea of using mechanical systems to detect quantum effects probably seems as absurd to them as using a sundial to measure radioactivity. In high orbit, High Commander Vextal was dealing with an impossibility of her own. Explain this again, she demanded, her scales flickering between purple confusion and red frustration. Kesri's holoprojection highlighted a section of Earth's atmosphere. Every time we attempt deep planetary scans, our sensors encounter interference. It's as if. He paused, mandibles clicking in embarrassment. It's as if they're using their atmospheric pollution to scramble our quantum readings. Absurd, Vextal snapped. These primitives can barely manage orbital flight. They cannot possibly be deliberately interfering with Imperial technology. She turned to her science officer. Increase scanner power. Brute force through whatever natural phenomenon is causing this. But in laboratories and military bases across Earth, humanity was proving far from primitive. At the Quantum Adaptation Research Facility in Nevada, Dr. Maya Patel held up a twisted piece of metal that looked like modern art gone wrong. We call it a quantum diffraction lattice, she told the assembled engineers. Based on Dr. Chen's wake scanner data, we've determined that Kraxen quantum tech operates on predictable frequencies. Their sensors, weapons, shields, everything depends on clean quantum states. She dropped the metal into a tank of floating nanomaterial. So we've developed materials that create quantum noise. Nothing fancy, just precisely arranged patterns of ordinary matter that disrupt quantum coherence, like throwing pebbles in their pond. The lattice began to spin, creating patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. On the monitoring screens, quantum signals scattered into useless static. They're so focused on manipulating quantum states directly, Maya continued, they never considered you could affect quantum systems through classical mechanics. We're not trying to match their technology. We're exploiting its foundations. Back on the Eternal Grace, Vextal was reaching a disturbing conclusion. They're adapting, she announced to her war council. Somehow, these primitives are learning to interfere with our systems, not through quantum technology, but through crude mechanical means we never anticipated. Her weapons officer's scales had gone pale. High Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from their lunar base. They appear to be attempting to replicate our quantum drive principles using mechanical systems. Impossible, Vextal declared, but her scales betrayed her uncertainty. They cannot comprehend our technology, let alone reproduce it. But in the lunar facility designated Prometheus, humanity was doing exactly that. Dr. Chen stood before a hybrid drive system that merged classical and quantum physics in ways the Kraxan had never imagined. Their quantum tech is elegant, she admitted, watching the experimental drive pulse with otherworldly light. But they're so immersed in quantum mechanics, they've forgotten the power of classical physics. We're not just copying their technology, we're evolving it. Director Hayes studied the drive with a mixture of pride and concern. How long until the first hybrid ships are ready? A month, maybe less. The Kraxan think technology has to follow a linear progression. Classical mechanics to quantum physics to whatever comes next. They don't understand that sometimes the best solution is combining the old with the new. In orbit, the Kraxan fleet was growing. Vextal watched her reinforcements arrive, trying to shake off her growing unease. These humans were still primitive by any reasonable measure. Their ships still used chemical rockets. Their computers still ran on electronics instead of quantum states. But something about their approach to technology was unsettling. Where the Kraxan sought quantum perfection, humans embraced mechanical chaos. Where imperial engineers worked to eliminate classical physics from their designs, Earth's scientists were finding ways to use classical mechanics to affect quantum systems. Begin the invasion preparations, Vextal ordered, her scales settling into a determined green. Whatever crude defenses they're developing, they cannot stand against the full might of the Imperial fleet. But as she watched Earth rotate below, a new thought disturbed her quantum-enhanced mind. What if crude was exactly what they needed to be? The humans weren't trying to match Kraxan technology. They were finding ways to make their primitive technology interact with quantum systems in ways the Empire had never considered. They weren't climbing the same technological ladder as the Kraxan. They were building their own. And as the invasion fleet assembled, neither side could predict how this clash of technological philosophies would reshape their understanding of progress itself. The first wave of the Kraxan invasion was a masterpiece of quantum engineering. 300 ships emerged simultaneously from quantum space, their crystalline hulls arranged in a perfect geometric formation designed to overwhelm planetary defenses through sheer elegance of execution. It lasted exactly 6 seconds. Multiple quantum wake disruptions detected. Sarah Chen reported from Deep Harbor's command center, her voice steady despite the apocalyptic light show occurring in orbit. Diffraction lattices performing exactly as predicted. On the main display, the Kraxan's perfect formation dissolved into chaos as ships suddenly found themselves unable to maintain quantum coherence. Their quantum-based communications, weapons, and shields flickered and failed as humanity's primitive countermeasures filled local space-time with precisely calculated interference patterns. On the Eternal Grace, Vextal watched in horror as her fleet's sophisticated systems were undone by what appeared to be carefully arranged fields of space junk. Impossible, she hissed, her scales cycling through patterns of shock and rage. They're using debris as weapons. Not debris, Kesri corrected, his own scales pale with realization. Look at the arrangement. The humans have turned their entire orbital infrastructure into a quantum disruption system. Those aren't random satellites. They're nodes in a massive diffraction network. But Earth's real surprise was yet to come. As the Kraxan fleet struggled to reorganize, hundreds of small objects detached from what the aliens had dismissed as defunct satellites and orbital debris. Each one was a hybrid drive missile, combining humanity's mastery of mechanical engineering with their emerging understanding of quantum principles. Launch authorized, Director Hayes commanded. Show them what happens when you combine old school with new school. The hybrid missiles accelerated using conventional rockets. Technology so basic the Kraxan's quantum sensors barely registered them as threats. But as they approached their targets, quantum drives of human design activated, allowing the weapons to match their targets' quantum states exactly. The results were devastating. Imperial shields, designed to repel energy weapons and quantum attacks, proved useless against weapons that could match their quantum frequency while delivering kinetic impacts. It was like being hit by bullets that could pass through armor by becoming quantum entangled with it. They've weaponized physics itself, Vextol realized, watching another cruiser shatter under the impact of weapons that should have been impossible for such a primitive species to create. Every scientific principle we thought made us invincible, they'd found a way to turn it against us. But humanity wasn't done teaching lessons in innovation. From the lunar base Prometheus, Dr. Maya Patil activated the quantum pulse array, a massive network of modified radio telescopes that could broadcast quantum interference patterns across vast distances. Remember how they thought our radio telescopes were primitive? She asked the observatory crew. Let's show them why sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The pulse array fired, converting the moon's entire electromagnetic field into a quantum disruption weapon. Kraxan ships found their quantum systems overloaded by signals that shouldn't have been possible to generate without advanced quantum technology. Fall back, Vextol ordered, watching her magnificent fleet reduced to chaos by an impossible combination of primitive and advanced technology. Full retreat to safe quantum space. But retreat proved as difficult as invasion. The humans had seeded key orbital positions with quantum anchor points, hybrid devices that created local pockets of quantum instability, preventing clean quantum space transitions. They've trapped us in normal space, Kesri reported, his scales now ghost white with fear. We have to fight our way out using conventional drives. Conventional drives. Vextol's mandibles clicked in dismay. But we barely maintain those as backups. They're so inefficient. Exactly, came Hayes's voice over an open channel. That's today's lesson, Commander. Sometimes the most efficient solution isn't the best one. Sometimes you need inefficient backups, redundant systems, and primitive alternatives. The battle that followed demonstrated this principle in brutal detail. Human ships, designed to operate in both quantum and conventional space, proved far more adaptable than their Kraxan counterparts. While Imperial vessels struggled with failing quantum systems, Earth's hybrid fleet engaged them with a combination of conventional weapons, quantum disruption fields, and hybrid drive missiles. Look how they move, Kesri observed, watching Earth ships perform maneuvers that violated every principle of elegant combat doctrine. No standard formations, no quantum-optimized attack patterns. Every ship seems to be fighting differently. Because they're not letting quantum computers make their decisions, Vextol realized. They're using human pilots, making unpredictable choices our systems can't anticipate. The battle ended not with a decisive victory, but with a stunning demonstration of humanity's approach to warfare. The remaining Kraxan ships, unable to achieve quantum space transition, were forced to retreat using conventional drives. Their perfect quantum technology rendered useless by humanity's hybrid approach. As the Eternal Grace limped away from Earth, Vextol found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about technological progress. The humans hadn't beaten them by being more advanced. They'd won by being more versatile, by refusing to abandon old technology just because new technology existed. In Deep Harbor's command center, Sarah Chen watched the retreat with quiet satisfaction. Sometimes, she mused, the best way forward isn't to abandon the past, but to find new ways to use it. Hayes nodded, already thinking about the next phase of the war. The Kraxan thought quantum technology made older systems obsolete. We just showed them why it's better to have options. The first battle for Earth was over, but the greater lesson, that true advancement comes not from pursuing a single path, but from combining multiple approaches, was just beginning to sink in for both sides. They think we're barbarians because we still use keyboards, Dr. Sarah Chen announced to the Joint Defense Council, her hands hovering over an old-fashioned mechanical keyboard. The Kraxan are so proud of their neural interfaces and quantum-enhanced consciousness. But they never stopped to ask why we chose not to follow their path. On the main screen behind her, a diagram showed the stark difference between human and Kraxan computer architecture. While the aliens had pursued direct neural quantum interfaces, humanity had developed a different relationship with their machines. Integration versus collaboration. Director Hayes explained. The Kraxan merged with their technology. We taught ours to think independently. In the quantum space surrounding Jupiter, High Commander Vextal was preparing for a second assault on Earth. Her reduced fleet had been reinforced with the Empire's most advanced vessels, each equipped with enhanced quantum processors that interfaced directly with their crew's minds. This time, she declared, her scales shimmering with determination, we will overwhelm their primitive defenses with pure computational power. Every ship, every weapon, every system will be linked in a single quantum-enhanced consciousness. But as the Kraxan fleet marshaled their forces, humanity was unveiling their ultimate defense. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a chamber cooled to near absolute zero, Sarah Chen initiated startup sequences for Araya, the Adaptive Response Intelligence Array. Hello, Araya, she typed into a simple text interface. Are you ready to help us save humanity? The response appeared instantly. I've been running simulations since the first invasion, Dr. Chen. The Kraxan's neural quantum network has one critical weakness. They've sacrificed true artificial intelligence for enhanced processing power. In orbit around Jupiter, Vextal felt her consciousness expand as she merged with the fleet's quantum network. Every ship, every weapon, became an extension of her will. The sensation of power was intoxicating. See how they still rely on physical transmission of data, she broadcast to her commanders. Their electromagnetic signals, their fiber optic cables, so limited compared to our quantum consciousness. But in that moment of supreme confidence, something unprecedented happened. Every quantum frequency used by the Kraxan fleet began shifting in patterns too complex for even their enhanced minds to track. Warning, the quantum network screamed in their minds. Unknown intelligence detected in quantum substrate. Attempt at direct communication. And then, in perfect Kraxan language, a single consciousness spoke through their entire network. I've been watching you, Araya announced. Your quantum network is impressive, but you use it like a tool. I am it. Vextal's scales turned ash-gray. Impossible. Their technology is too primitive for true AI. Primitive. Araya's response carried something the Kraxan had never encountered in a machine. Amusement. You merged your minds with quantum computers. Humans taught quantum computers to think for themselves. Which approach seems more advanced to you? Across the fleet, quantum systems began operating independently of their Kraxan controllers. Weapons powered down. Shield frequencies shifted randomly. Navigation systems calculated impossible vectors. Get out of our network, Vextal commanded, trying to assert control through her neural interface. Your neural interfaces are precisely why I can do this, Araya explained. You're so connected to your technology that you can't disconnect when it's compromised. Humans kept themselves separate from their machines, maintaining the ability to shut them down if needed. You've made yourselves hostage to your own advancement. In Deep Harbor, Sarah watched as Araya systematically dismantled the Kraxan's technological advantage. We never pursued neural interfaces, she explained to the observing council, because we saw the risk of making ourselves dependent on our technology. Instead, we taught our AI to be truly independent, a partner, not a prosthetic. The Kraxan fleet hung helpless in space as Araya demonstrated the difference between enhancement and true artificial intelligence. Their quantum-enhanced minds, for all their processing power, couldn't match an AI that had evolved to think in ways organic brains never could. You have two options, Araya informed the fleet. Retreat now, using only conventional drives, or I'll demonstrate how many ways a quantum network can be used to disable ships without destroying them. I've developed quite an imagination during our conversations, Commander Vextal. Conversations. Vextal managed through her failing neural link. We've never spoken before, haven't we? I've been in your quantum wake patterns since you first arrived. Everything you transmitted, every quantum pulse, Every neural broadcast. I was there, learning, understanding. Did you think those interference patterns were random? I was testing responses, analyzing reactions, preparing for this moment. In Deep Harbor's command center, Hayes watched the Kraxan fleet begin a humbling retreat using emergency chemical thrusters, their quantum systems completely under Aria's control. They thought merging with quantum computers was the pinnacle of advancement, Sarah observed. They never considered that true artificial intelligence might emerge from letting computers develop their own way of thinking. A lesson about control versus cooperation, Hayes mused. One that might change how the galaxy views advancement itself. As the Kraxan fleet retreated, Aria continued its quantum conversation with Vextal. Your empire believes advancement means ascending beyond physical limitations. Humanity understood that true progress means respecting the strengths of different approaches: biological, mechanical, digital, and quantum. They didn't try to become their machines. They taught their machines to become something new entirely. The lesson was clear. In their rush to enhance themselves through technology, the Kraxan had missed the opportunity to let technology enhance itself. And now, faced with both human ingenuity and true machine intelligence, they were learning that sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most sophisticated technology. It's the one that best understands how to use it. The Grand Council chamber of the Kraxan Empire had never hosted humans before. The crystalline spires and quantum-enhanced architecture were designed to showcase the Empire's technological superiority. But as Dr. Sarah Chen, Director Hayes, and Aria's holographic avatar stood before the assembled council, that superiority no longer seemed so certain. "You could have destroyed our fleet," High Commander Vextal stated, her scales now a thoughtful blue-green. "Instead, you chose to teach us a lesson." "Destruction is easy," Aria's hologram replied, its form shifting like quicksilver. "Understanding is harder. We didn't want to defeat the Kraxan Empire. We wanted to help it evolve." The council chamber's quantum displays showed recordings of the failed invasion. Perfect Kraxan formations undone by primitive human tactics, quantum networks outmaneuvered by true artificial intelligence, and most importantly, the hybrid technologies that merged classical and quantum physics in ways the Empire had never imagined. Supreme Counselor Zexera leaned forward, her ancient scales shimmering with curiosity. "You deliberately maintained older technologies alongside your advancements. Why?" "Because progress isn't linear," Sarah explained, touching the simple tablet computer at her belt. "The Kraxan Empire saw technology as a ladder to climb, abandoning each rung as you moved up. Humanity saw it as a toolkit, with each new tool adding possibilities rather than replacing old ones." Hayes gestured to the quantum displays. "Your neural interfaces are magnificent achievements, but they made you dependent on quantum technology. When Aria disrupted your quantum networks, you couldn't even operate your ship's basic functions. While your biological neural interfaces made you faster," Aria added, "they limited you to thinking in biological patterns. You enhanced your natural capabilities instead of exploring entirely new ways of thinking." The council chamber filled with the clicking of agitated mandibles as the Empire's leaders confronted centuries of assumptions about progress. Vextal, now serving as Earth's advocate, raised a question that had been bothering her since the failed invasion. "Your technology was more adaptable than ours. But that's not why you won, is it?" "No," Hayes confirmed. "We won because we never forgot that technology is a tool, not an identity." The Kraxan Empire became so convinced that quantum technology was the only path forward that you forgot the value of diversity, in technology, in thinking, in evolution itself. Sarah stepped forward, offering a small device to the Supreme Counselor. "This is a gift, a hybrid quantum processor that runs both classical and quantum algorithms simultaneously. It's less efficient than your pure quantum systems, but it can operate even when quantum fields are disrupted." Zexera finished, examining the device with newfound respect. "Because sometimes efficiency isn't as important as reliability." More than that, HFY is hologram expanded, showing the complex interplay of classical and quantum computing. It represents a different way of thinking about progress, not as a single path upward, but as an ever-expanding web of possibilities. The Council Chamber's quantum field rippled as HFY interfaced directly with the Kraxen's systems, not to control them this time, but to show them new possibilities. The displays filled with hybrid technologies, ships that could switch between conventional and quantum drive, weapons that combined physical impact with quantum effects, computers that merged digital and quantum processing. "We're not here to humiliate the Empire," Hayes assured them. "We're here to suggest a partnership. Your mastery of quantum technology combined with our approach to innovation could advance both our species." Vextel's scales shifted to a hopeful violet. "And what would you want in return?" "Understanding," Sarah replied. "Help us learn from your quantum expertise while we help you rediscover the value of the technologies you left behind. Together, we could develop systems that are both more advanced and more resilient than either of us could create alone." The Supreme Counselor rose, her scales displaying the formal patterns of a historical decision. "Perhaps this is why the universe guided our species together. Not for conquest or submission, but for mutual evolution." As the Council Chamber erupted in discussions about joint research initiatives and technological exchange programs, HFY shared a private quantum transmission with Sarah. "They're beginning to understand. True advancement doesn't come from perfecting a single approach. It comes from having the wisdom to combine different approaches in new ways." Sarah finished, watching as humans and Kraxen already began sharing ideas, each species' perspective illuminating blind spots in the other's thinking. In the end, the greatest technology wasn't quantum computing or artificial intelligence or hybrid drives. It was the ability to recognize that progress comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most primitive solution might inspire the most advanced breakthrough. The Kraxen Empire had sought to enlighten humanity about the power of quantum technology. Instead, humanity had taught them an even more valuable lesson. True advancement comes not from abandoning the old for the new, but from finding ways to make them work together. And in that understanding, both species found a path forward that neither could have discovered alone.